A valuable part of every college student's career should always involve hands-on experience. That's why internships are a valuable part of professional growth for most college students across the United States. Internships allow young people the opportunity to grow, learn, test out new ways of thinking and working. In many cases, college student internships can help them cement or even redirect their career path. For many years, Helena has provided young people in agriculture an opportunity to develop their skills today. Many of those former interns are valuable employees for our organization. In this episode, we'll visit with Wes Page from Columbia, South Carolina. Wes is responsible for recruiting and managing over 40 interns this summer across Helena. He will share his insight about the importance of the quality internship program that he provides and what it means not only to Helena, but to our customers. Then we'll catch up with Jody Lawrence in Nashville for a commodity commentary, and then we'll circle back up with over 5 interns from Penn State to Washington State, North Dakota State, and the University of Arkansas, all the way to the center of the United States to the University of Nebraska. Stay tuned for FieldLink. Now joining us from Columbia, South Carolina is Wes Page. Wes is responsible for managing the intern program for the agriculture sector of Helena in the eastern half of the United States, as well as the specialty division across the entire United States. Wes, welcome to FieldLink.
Good to be here.
Wes, you and I have had the opportunity to work together for a long time here, but here at Helena. But tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you get to this role of managing interns in Columbia for the Eastern Business Unit?
Well, I started as an intern back in 1998 in Alamo, Tennessee. I was a freshman. I interned 1 summer for Helena and 3 summers for a supplier in our business. And then when I got out of college, I went to UT Martin, got an ag business degree there. And then I got a job offer as a sales rep in Albany, Georgia, in our Eastern Business Unit here. And I've been in the Eastern Business Unit ever since. This is my 21st year with Helena. And we launched our internship program in 2012. The internship program is one of about 3 or 4 things I'm responsible for, but it's probably one of the most important things that we do. Pretty big program to manage, and it's a lot of moving parts, as you know from your past experience, Bill. But it's been a really good program for us at this point, and I can get into more details as you ask me questions. But we're hiring over 60% of our interns full time, and that number is something we're pretty proud of in our business unit. I can't speak for what the entire company numbers are, but I do know that's the numbers for us.
Wow, those are really amazing numbers, Wes. And I guess as we step back a little bit, why are intern programs specifically at Helena? Why are they important to our industry or to our business as well as to our customers, from your perspective?
Well, I think from the customer standpoint, our customer base, most of them are producing crops of some sort. They're growing crops, and I think they take a lot of pride in seeing young people grow. I think that's one thing that sometimes we don't talk about enough with our customers, is that's part of their livelihood and life, and seeing people grow is as important to them as seeing the crops grow in a lot of ways. So our customers, they take a lot of time with our interns, probably more time than they do sometimes with the people that are working with them with our agri-intelligence and our sales reps, because they see something in these young people that are trying to get their career started. I think from Helena's standpoint, it's a pipeline for us, and that's why we started the program in 2012. And why my role that I'm in now was created to come to Columbia, was we knew we needed to go find really good people, train them the right way, and grow them from the ground up. I use the analogy a lot that, I'm a big baseball fan, but we decided to go the route of developing our own players through our minor league system instead of signing free agents. Not that doesn't make sense at some point, but we wanted that to be the base of what we were doing in terms of putting people in place to help our business unit.
Wes, you brought up a really great point at the grower level, customers. I have to agree with you. It's amazing to see over the years how farmers are always willing to, I guess, bring those young people onto their farm and honestly provide them a learning opportunity, a hands-on experience, and give them the, I guess, benefit of the doubt a little bit to learn. I mean, I think east to west, north to south, growers as a whole love to see young people step on their farm and being part of this industry.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I think that as the program, as it ballooned and customers got used to seeing interns, they look forward to it every year when interns come. And that doesn't say that every single customer is like that, but there's a lot of them that are, and that's been a valuable piece. One of the questions you ask is, what do the interns get out of it? I talked a little bit about Helena and what we kind of get out of it, and then what customers get out of it. But I think for the interns, it's a good way to get a glimpse of our business and our industry. A lot of our interns have interned somewhere else before they come to us. They get a glimpse into our culture and whether it's a good fit for them. And even some of the ones that we haven't hired full time, I think it was a really good experience for them and probably taught them that maybe this isn't what they want to get into. I think sometimes I think you learn one of the most valuable things of these programs, internships with any company in any industry, is you learn this might not be what I thought it is, or it really is what I thought it is. And there's probably been some scenarios where we've had interns that might not have thought this is what they wanted to do because the terminology of being a sales rep, for instance, sometimes that has a negative connotation. But I think when they get and see what our people do, it's a little bit different than they envision. So I think sometimes just as much as people might have thought this is what they wanted to do and then decided it isn't, the other can happen by taking a chance on a program that we're running.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think a lot of students over the years, they get this picture in their head on campus through professors or parents or families or friends, thinking a role is going to look one way, but boy, until you put you walk in the shoes of a sales rep or an operations manager or an agri-intelligence specialist, until you walk there, like you do a little bit as an intern for 10 to 12 weeks, you don't know what you don't know, and it can really redirect or cement. I like to use the word cement, kind of the direction in the career path where that individual wants to go.
Yeah, it does. I think it shapes it in a lot of different ways because of the experiences they get. And I think one good thing, most of our interns work in a branch. And of course, as you know, every branch is a little bit different in terms of their crop mix and, just the people at the branch. But I think one good thing being at a branch is they get to see everything from being out in the field, working with our agri-intelligence people, riding with sales reps, riding with branch managers, being in the office some. We give them some projects to where they have to spend a day with our office coordinator. They have to spend a day with a driver and applicator. They have to spend a day counting inventory. So they get a full-fledged view of what goes on at the branch. And I'll tell you this, I think, too, one thing that we've noticed with our interns versus our hires that have come from outside the company, because of that interaction, they have a lot more respect for each one of the jobs at the branch when they get hired because they've been a part of it, they've seen it, they've touched it, and they understand, and they've developed relationships with people in those roles. So I think that helps the culture at our branches as much as anything.
Yeah, I completely agree. When that student has that opportunity to experience all of those different areas of the industry, and I think kind of going back to a little bit what we touched on, just as the branch, if you think about it, interns show up, the end of May, first part of June, onto location, and for most of our locations across the United States, that student is walking in probably one of the highest, most craziest, busiest times of the season, and when they walk in, they're usually pretty excited and full of energy. And boy, just the energy that lifts a branch up when a new attitude, a new person, new fresh face, a new set of hands, for that matter, shows up to assist and to help and to dive in and helping that branch better perform is a big win for not just the student, but also the location and ultimately the customer.
Yeah, you think about it too, and you're right, almost all of our branches that time of year our program runs from mid-May when they get to the branch to mid-August, so about the time they're going back to school. But mid-May is a time where a lot of the branches have been kind of beat down, and they're kind of the tail end of the busiest 60-day stretch that they have. And so it does, and we tell the interns this during training week, that you guys are getting ready to introduce a lot of positive energy into the branch, and just be prepared for that and bring a positive, good attitude every day. And good things will happen.
Wes, tell me a little bit about how are your students typically recruited, and is your program pretty competitive? Is it hard to get an internship with Helena?
Yeah, we're pretty selective, and I think the approach that we've taken is we want to try to use this as a way to hire full-time people, not just summer help. And I think probably some other internships, not necessarily within Helena, but in other industries, they don't necessarily look at it that way. So we do try to screen pretty hard on the front end. I probably, on average, during the year, will interview 140 to 150 students. I've been interviewing about that many for quite a while, but one thing that's changed now is we have we've bumped up our program. So one out of every 4 or 5 that we interview, we probably hire. So yeah, and the way that recruitment goes has changed a little bit since COVID. Probably for the better for everybody. And to be quite honest with you, there's some students that we have now working full time that interned last year that had it not been for the advent of technology like we're on now, we never would have been interviewed them. Or at least I wouldn't have been able to. So that has opened up some doors for us to grow and students that probably couldn't have been in-person interviews to be a part of what we're doing.
Wow, that's awesome. And I think you're right. It allows us the new technology, whether it be Zoom, Teams, those kind of things, to do some interviewing. Allows you, as Wes Page, to be on multiple campuses in a single day versus kind of the old days when you and I used to hit the road show and, we'd hit 8 to 10 or 12 campuses extremely hard in a very tight period of time. And now we can be in a lot of different places and at least get a base of students and extend our reach to maybe some of those maybe not so prominent schools, but still deliver very good talent, to companies like Helena.
And it's interesting. I think when we first started this program, a lot of the applicants came from these career fairs that the schools do, and most all the ag schools have ag career fairs. Even before COVID, I think the numbers of people that attended those were dwindling a little bit. But since COVID, a lot of schools haven't even had them, and you got juniors and seniors now that never even been to one. So I think the job postings, word of mouth, we're trying to utilize past interns that we know to coming back to help us find people that they think will fit because they've been through the program. So we're getting resumes, and I know we recruited time frame a little bit different than some of the other parts of the country, but we're getting resumes from the 1st of September all the way to I think I've got my last intern hired sometime in early April this year, which is pretty late, but the advent of being able to do stuff through technology like this has allowed that part to be extended. And before, if you got a resume from somebody, say at Penn State, and I wasn't going back to Penn State, we wouldn't even interview them. Now you can interview them the day you get the resume or the next day.
It's definitely evolved for sure. Wes, a lot of young people that are in colleges, college is crazy expensive. I know because I'm paying tuition for one of my daughters right now for that, and it's not cheap. So students are often looking, at internships as simply just another paycheck, a way to make money. But that's really not what the Helena internship's all about, correct?
No, I think we're very fair and competitive and, all that kind of stuff when you talk about compensation. But I think as a student, you really have to look at the experience that you're going to get. We've had students that have come in that have had a chance to make a little bit more or stay closer to home and save more money, but they don't get the same experience. And I think the one thing I would say is our interns are not just summer help. This thing's evolved now to where our agri-intelligence programs are so much bigger than they used to be that we have to have them in the summertime. And that's why I'll use an example in the Eastern Division. They have 21 interns, and we probably could have used 2 or 3 more just because they're selling some scouting and tissue sampling programs that we have to have people in place to help with that. And that's a really big learning experience for students as they get to see agronomy at the base level and how we're trying to help growers make good decisions and do the right things agronomically. And so they're a part of that. And I think that's a rewarding experience for them. But yeah, you have to look at the overall experience and what you get exposed to, not just as a student, not just the compensation.
No, I totally agree. I think it's more than a paycheck. And our locations have really evolved over the years. yes, we do hire summer help, and the interns that we're talking about really aren't necessarily summer help. I mean, to your point, they're very involved in agri-intelligence, and they're very involved in evaluating products from the Helena Products Group. I mean, every week those students are capturing photos of new and unique products that are being introduced to the marketplace that can help growers better understand the features and benefits of those products locally. And boy, there's nothing, to your point, Wes, of getting your hands dirty and really touching and feeling those kinds of products and being well educated about them.
Well, and you mentioned summer help, and sometimes the students that we hire that are summer help, that are just there to help do one specific thing, get involved in our program later on. We have a young lady that is going to school at NC State that was basically a summer help in terms of scouting last summer at one of our branches in North Carolina, and she's in a part of our program now, and she might be the most advanced scout that we have in the whole program that we got this year, and she's only a sophomore, so we're kind of excited about seeing her growth.
Yeah, I completely agree. We've seen a lot of students over the years move from operations into these type of programs that, again, their career continues to evolve through these hands-on experiences throughout the summer. Wes, how is the program that you're running? How does it different from a lot of other competitors or other agriculture internship programs that are out there that you're aware of? How do you separate yourself?
I think the time and investment that we have in our students, both before they get to the branch, but then especially when they get to the branch. And it didn't happen overnight. These branches have really learned how to manage interns and develop them and do the right things with them. We bring all of our interns into Columbia for a week of training. We've gotten to the size now where we have to do that in 2 different weeks. Plus, all these universities get out at different times. So trying to pack, like 43 this year into 1 week would have been too big a project, but I don't even know if we could have done it anyway because of how spaced out some of the schools are in terms of when they finalize, finish up school and then when they go back. But we do a really onboarding week, hard week of a lot of training on our products and agronomy and, just about Helena in general. And, we bring them in and expose them to a lot of upper management, a lot of people in this Columbia office that help run the business unit for the East Coast are involved in this process. They go to the branch, they get a lot of attention with different people at the branch, and then at the end of the summer we bring them back to Columbia for final presentations and for 2 of the divisions that'll start next week and here in Columbia, but it'll stretch over about a 3-week period. So each student comes back and gives a 30-minute final presentation, and we do exit interviews to kind of talk about how the summer went and try to line up people that we might be trying to hire full time and or bring back for another internship in 2023. And we had, I think, 6 interns out of the 43 that were returners from last year. That number probably next year could be 15, I guess. So we do like, and that's been one advantage for us, I think, is we really like having multiple year interns because their advancement when they get hired full time, if they've interned 2 or 3 times, is light years ahead of somebody meeting that intern only once.
Sure, absolutely. Wes, you referenced our commitment to training. Tell us a little deeper. Tell us a little bit more about that training week, and then what are some of the expectations of students, as they get out to the locations? What are they actually doing?
Well, the training week, just to give you an example of one of the things that we do, we give them an agricultural or agronomy math test. So we give them the test ahead of time, send a notebook out, and we test them as soon as they get to Columbia. And to be quite honest with you, I think probably some of the professors would have a hard time, that their professors would have a hard time taking that test because it's pretty specific to what we do. I think one of the biggest things that we do in training week is I think most every student comes out there a little overwhelmed, but that's an advantage for them because they realize they're not rolling into whatever branch they're going to and the most knowledgeable person there because they're a college student. I think they're overwhelmed and a little taken back because there's a lot of stuff they got to learn, but they're at a point then when they get to the branch that they're ready to be taught. So I think that's one of the biggest advantages of the training week. I mean, we go over a lot of Helena specific stuff, a lot of Helena product stuff that's unique to us, and then agronomy stuff. We teach them how to calculate fertilizer blends and make blends and all that kind of stuff. So it's a pretty intense week. We have fun too, but there's a lot of stuff to digest just to get them to where they can start learning.
Yeah, I think you bring up a great point. I've had many students over the years come back to me after that training week and reference that, hey, I learned more in that 1 week than I did in 4 years of getting my agronomy degree from a top-notch 4-year institution, because it's quite frankly a little more practical. It's and the pressure's on, right? It's not about getting an A. It's about, can you do the job or not? And that's awesome. Wes, share with us some success stories of, I guess, some of the students that you've recruited over the years, and what they've done in their career and how they've blossomed.
Yeah, one thing I'll say too about the training week before I go to that is I think one of the biggest things too that comes out of that is the bond that the interns create with each other, and that tends to, we've got students from as far north as Massachusetts, as far south as Florida, now as far west with specialty out in Washington. But they all mesh pretty good after spending 4 or 5 days with each other. I think that's a valuable part of that week that I probably didn't mention before.
I agree with that. That is a very important point to bring on. And even to this day, students that I actually was part of recruiting over 15 years ago, I know that they still connect. They may be working for Helena, or they may be working for a supplier. Heck, they might be home farming, but they're still connected. And to your point, from all over the nation. And what a I guess, almost bond or fraternity in its own unique way that these students come together.
Yeah, and we've actually started assigning peer mentors. So for the returners, they're actually a peer mentor for a group of 4, 5, or 6, however many it turns out to be, that they guide them throughout the training week and ahead of even getting to Columbia for the training week, and then try to match people up that we feel like will get along and have some common similarities. But that's one of the things we've done too over the last few years. You asked about success stories. We've had 207 internships now since 2012. And of course, 43 are going on now. Our hire rate has been over 60% of the internships have been hired. And still about 75% of those, almost 80% of those are still working for us. We've had over 10 former interns become branch managers. On the specialty side, I'll give you an example. Aaron Martin was he was our first specialty intern back in 2014. He was from Auburn, lived in the Atlanta area, was an ag major, but from a bigger city. So we felt like specialty might be a good fit for him. He had worked for the Atlanta Braves as had done an internship for them as a grounds crew. Aaron Martin became a sales rep for us in Winder, which is Atlanta. Moved to St. Pete, Florida, is in St. Pete now, and has become the branch manager for that area in Florida and specialty. So, and one good bright spot about that is the interaction he has with a lot of the guys on the ag side is really good, because they've gotten to know each other through either post-hire trainings or trainings that we've done there. Another guy I'll highlight that's been a really good hire for us was a guy that I found at Virginia Tech a few years ago. Andy King is his name. Andy is an ROTC guy from Virginia Tech. He'd interned for us. He was our first ever 3-time intern. We worked with him through his military stuff because he had, especially his last time, he had to miss some time because of the military commitment. But Andy became an agri-intelligence person for us in Mount Crawford, Virginia. Then he became a sales rep, and now he's a branch manager, and they're having record numbers the last few years in Mount Crawford. So kind of cool to see that. He was our first 3-time intern. I think we've had now 5 3-time interns, and probably next year we'll have a 4-time intern for the first time.
Wow, that's awesome. Those are great results, and those results are echoed across the country. I know folks in the Southern Business Unit, and of course in the Midwest, are having some of those similar stories. That watching these young people come in as interns, trying to figure out a product here and there, and then just watching them evolve and then move on through their career and take on leadership roles is extremely exciting, and in a lot of cases, taking some very advanced roles within our organization. It's really exciting to see that move.
I'll say this because it's the first time we've had this happen. Wesley Hudson was a firefighter for Auburn University. They have a unique situation there, but he was getting a scholarship as a firefighter and majored in ag. He interned for us twice, had to take a year off because of his firefighting commitments. So he interned 1 year, had an off year, and then the second year. And he became an agri-intelligence person for us, and he just became our first former intern that's a product manager in the East Coast. So he's working the lower Southeast as a product manager for us.
You referenced that. We had a field day in Memphis here a few weeks back, and we had a group come through. We broke these groups into smaller groups. I look up as I'm giving my presentation, and there's 10 people in this particular group. 5 of them are product managers, and they happen to be from the Midwest. And of the 5, 4 of them were former interns, and I was like, "Wow!" I recruited all of those, and it's a neat feeling to see those people evolve through their career. Whether they work in seed or work at a location in agri-intelligence or in sales, and then to move into those advanced product manager roles or whatever it may be. It's just fun to see that happening.
Yeah, it's cool. It took us about 2 or 3 years to get that pipeline started. But once it did, it's kind of fun to look back, and now it's a constant deal now because we've been running it for so long. But once you see the success that some of these young people start having, it's makes you pretty proud.
Well, and the recruitment for people is challenging across the entire nation. It's not unique to Helena or to agriculture. Just finding good talent and talent that's interested in working is tough to find. But this has certainly been a proven pipeline, proven program for our organization for many years, and we're reaping some of those benefits today. Boy, you referenced recruiting. It kind of never ends, really, but August, September is kicking in here around the corner. You're going to be back at it again. Walk us through what will your first career fair be, and how will you kick off your recruiting season?
I think our first one this year, if I'm remembering right, is Penn State in September, and it'd be interesting to see what happens. Hopefully, we get some candidates from those fairs, but I think the tendency of that is changing a little bit. The biggest way to apply for any student that's interested is to get us a resume, whether it's at a career fair or email it to us and let us start the interview process. But yeah, it'll begin in September, and I think because of some differences, the way the universities do some stuff on the East Coast, I think it's a little bit different for us than like the Midwest, for instance. But a lot of our universities don't do their career fairs until after the first of the year. And for whatever reason, I think a lot of our students over here, they don't even start thinking about internships till after Christmas or New Year's. So that's a little bit different than I think what you guys deal with in the Midwest.
Well, and I think it's different across the entire nation. And I think, my advice for students, and I think you would probably agree, is start early. It doesn't hurt you to start early, to reach out to a location, reach out to your career services group, and just connect with Helena and start that process and get things moving on. Wes, any other advice for students that might be looking for an internship, as we look into, starting the new school year?
I think just get your resume out there and apply, whether it's online or you go to one of these career fairs. Is if you're looking for something and you want to do an internship, I guess the 2 things I would say, and we haven't really talked about this, but almost all of our interns move and relocate. So I think out of the 43, we have 7 or 8 that are able to live at home this summer, but that's very unusual. And I think that if you're going to be involved in agriculture and you want to go down this route in terms of a career, you got to be open-minded to moving. And we really need students that are willing to, at least relocate a few hours away, and sometimes it's more than that. But, I think that's one of the biggest limiting factors when we start talking to students that are interested. is being willing to move. And I tell students a lot when I'm doing those interviews that if you are willing to move and you're willing to relocate, you really open some opportunities up for yourself. And I think that sometimes is not a message that gets to them. But just getting your information out there that you're interested in, having an open mind and being willing to move and being willing to step outside your comfort zone a little bit is probably the best advice I could give.
Boy, I totally agree with you. I think, as a young person, being flexible, especially for internships, being able to move and be out of your comfort zone is absolutely critical. I see a lot of students that always want to try to secure an internship maybe close to home because it's convenient. I can stay at home. But what I learned, Wes, and maybe you have too, is when a student picks up, I don't know, I'll say from Penn State, for example, and he or she moves to Indiana or Kansas or wherever, it doesn't matter. They're separated. And when they're there. They're really mentally vested into that summer experience where they can consume it all versus having to be concerned about running home, to meet friends and that sort of thing. So that internship, that 10, 12-week internship is really an investment on their part, beyond the, 10, 12 hours of work, but they mentally get invested as well.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, Bill. The level of maturity that an intern gains when they leave and they're in a spot where they can't come home even every weekend. I mean, if maybe you're 2 or 3 hours away, you can probably do that. But if we're moving people 6-8 hours away and they're not hardly coming home at all, they are fully invested in the new place they're living. They're invested in the branch. They want to work as many hours as they can. And I think ultimately what a lot of interns find out is that being away from home is not that bad, And I think it ends up being a scenario where they probably change their thought process after the end of the summer. We had a specialty intern a few years ago that was from South Carolina, upstate South Carolina, went to Clemson and interned in Texas and is still in Texas. So it's I think and really likes it out there.
I totally agree. And, it's not just about picking up and learning a different crop or a different, part of the industry or business. It's the other stuff. It's the stuff of I have to physically get myself from, this part of the country to the next part of the country. I need to find housing. I need to be concerned about, I have to now go shop for myself for, the grocery store or whatever it may be. I have to make my own meals. There's a tremendous amount of growing up that takes place through these internships. That's beyond what you're providing and the rest of the Helena locations are providing to those students throughout the summer. It's certainly a class that's not offered on any college curriculum, really, what you're providing to these students. So, Wes, want to thank you so much for joining us today, and thanks for all you're doing. Thanks for helping build these young people up and give them the opportunity to grow. And we really appreciate you joining us here today on FieldLink.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity, and I'll say this: I think that as much as I might be able to help and give to the students that have come into our program, they give a lot more back to me. I mean, personally, they help keep you vibrant and young feeling at least. And, when you're dealing with all the different personalities and it's a very rewarding thing to be a process. And so it's a group effort all the way around with our Helena team on this.
Yeah, I completely echo all of that, Wes. Those young people bring energy to us as recruiters, as folks that are helping manage those kind of programs. And I absolutely agree. It's another, I don't want to call it a job, but it's an exciting job for our branches. They see the benefits of it, but boy, if we didn't have their support, this program would not be as successful. So again, Wes, thank you for joining us here on FieldLink, and thanks all that you do and provided these young folks. Joining us from Nashville is Jody Lawrence for a quick commodity update. Jody, welcome to FieldLink.
Thank you, Bill.
Jody, an awful lot going on across the markets right now. We've got a tremendous amount of noise and news, if you will, coming out of Washington, along with a lot of things happening around the globe as it relates to international relations. We've got some ships moving out of the Ukraine, out of ports finally down in the Black Sea, and we've got some happenings definitely in Taiwan. Let's try to bundle this all up and summarize some things for us, Jody.
Well, we can start out with the fact that the peace deal, that's the humanitarian export corridor, is still open, and there are ships exiting the three major ports of the Ukraine, of which everybody always hears about Odessa, or looks at that mainly because it's the only one most people can pronounce. Mm-hmm. And they are each filled with roughly about 10%, maybe about 3 to 4 million bushels of, and some of the ships may be even smaller, of corn that was loaded back in February. So what's gone out so far, and I think we're probably on the fifth or sixth ship that is making its way to or through Turkey and the port to be inspected. You're not talking about an enormous amount of corn, nor has any of the corn gotten to their destinations. Lebanon is one of the ports going to. Italy is another, and a couple other European and North African ports. They have not inspected the corn. We don't know what condition it's in, and it's still a lot to be known about that. And I think everybody in the back of their mind is taking this very much as a wait and see about every ship, because Russia certainly has a plan. To think that this goes off without a hitch, we probably would have had a better chance winning the mega billions pot to get that right.
Yeah, I've heard some other analysts indicate that, while we're catching a lot of great headlines here about some grain moving out of these ports, at the end of the day, and you touched on it, we're not talking a lot about a lot of grain here. Some reports are saying there's really only about 20 ships that are kind of earmarked to even move grain out of that part of the world. And a lot of it has to do with the vulnerability of what could happen in that part of the world if things don't go as planned.
That's just such a big part of it, because you have no idea. Russia is apparently getting offers of help from North Korea to send both weapons and additional military people. And you've got to think that at some point there's going to be a hitch, if not a huge hitch, in how these ships go in. And they still haven't ironed out all the details about what happens when all the ports are empty of ships and harvest starts in the Ukraine and Russia, and the willing companies begin to send bigger ships in to be loaded and transport the grain back out from a normal fall harvest. And at that point, I think that's when you really have to wonder what Russia's true intentions are going to be. And it may take another month for us to figure that out, but all of the ships should be sailed that are in port within the next several weeks.
Jody, clearly a lot of noise happening there. And then, of course, on the other side of the globe, a lot of noise happening in Taiwan with Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan. How have all of these, these happenings over the last few weeks impacted some of the grain markets?
It's brought in an additional layer of volatility. The two major events in between the Russia invading the Ukraine back in February was just added incredible uncertainty and volatility. And then when Pelosi, against advice of her president, her party, and every official in the State Department, took her own trip to Taiwan and thumbed her nose at China, that escalated their military drills and really put everybody ill at ease. The fortunate thing is China has showed up the past 2 days with confirmed purchases, so we know that they still have to have us. Brazil is not to a point and won't be for years, if ever, to fully replace us as their supplier of corn and beans. But it certainly is not a positive look when your biggest customer has serious issues with somebody who's come in to tell them they're doing all their political maneuvering wrong. And who knows where it goes. We're already starting to see some primary results, and be curious when we get to November how much of a backlash any of this has. But coming out of Washington, what they're calling the Inflation Reduction Act got passed, and that's going to be really from an agriculture side. The part of it that's great to see is that they are really promoting and giving additional incentive credits to biofuel, to biodiesel in particular. And you've seen a surge in soy oil prices since it appeared that Senator Manchin from West Virginia was going to sign it and get it to position to be passed. Still has to pass the House, but with the Dems in control of the House, that's probably a done deal. So it's positive from a use standpoint, and nobody likes paying $3.50 to $4 for unleaded gas and $5 for diesel. So anything we can do to get those prices down through the use of biofuels not only helps the on-farm community, but also helps everybody's pocketbook.
Yeah, that deal just recently, it was a 50-50 tie in the Senate. Kamala Harris broke that tie, and we had a $739 billion dollar focus on spurring renewable energy and ideas around reducing greenhouse gas emissions. They're certainly going to impact, agriculture moving forward in a lot of different ways. And I think the dust just simply needs to settle here before we really know where it's going to land. A lot of companies.
And one other thing, I'm sorry, Bill, but one other interesting thing that is going on, the point has been made, and I'm right about it, this in today's comment, of how slow our export pace has been so far this year for corn and beans. But one of the interesting stats is that the DDG and ethanol exports are both running 24% ahead of last year at the same time. So this is beginning to kind of focus the picture. Why is old crop basis so high, and why are the elevators and the ethanol plants bidding up for all this old crop corn? They have a willing market out there and good margins. So what we may be shifting is just from raw corn exports into a more finished product of DDGs and ethanol.
Interesting. And you reference, GDP across the board, kind of down a little bit. One of those reasonings is the ports are still slammed. They're still, bogged down. And I've talked to several shippers. They just can't simply get containers to export, a lot of American goods out of the country. And obviously that's impacting, our performance as a nation, as well as, the value of the dollar being a challenge as well.
Fortunately, the value of the dollar has started to back up just a little bit as the interest rates have begun to moderate, and the Fed is taking a much less hawkish approach, that they're not going to jump in with another 3/4 point increase the next time they meet before the end of the year. That a lot of people have trimmed it down to a half and maybe even just a quarter, with the yield curve already starting to suggest that there will be cuts when you get into the third and fourth quarter of 2023. So at some point, the dollar backing up is going to help us. But as of right now, we're still very much at the upper end of the historical range. And we're going to have to get some normalcy back in the world geopolitical environment for that to get back into the mid 90s, where it's really at a spot to help us build on exports.
Well, Jody, other factors other than the global challenges across the nation and around the world, weather, Mother Nature continues to throw a lot of curveballs our way. USDA came out with a recent report here. Things are starting to slide a little bit as far as the good report. You want to share some news there?
Yes, we're recording this on a Monday and on August 5th, and August 8th, and the crop condition reports came out today, and corn fell unexpectedly 3% down to 58. And 58, you begin to really struggle to see how a 177 trend line expectation yield can be met, because you would consider that to be more of a 63, 64, 65 national yield or national crop condition. And what you're seeing this year definitely is just the haves and have-nots. There were pockets in the Eastern Corn Belt that have had a great year. Got it in the ground timely, had the rains they needed, didn't suffer from any lengthy excessive heat like most of the rest of the country has. And enough of Illinois, when you talk about a big production state, falls into that category. And Iowa did for a long time, and their crop ratings up until this week were at 80%. And certainly you talk about Iowa with an 80% good to excellent rating, you're looking at potential records across the state. And that would be something that could make up some serious ground against what's happening in the Delta. But Iowa started to slip because over the last 10 days, up until this weekend, had really started to get some hot and dry pockets develop. And if you drew a line straight down the map, everything west of Des Moines is bad, getting worse, and everything east of Des Moines is stable or getting better. So as we get into the stretch run of the last month of important weather before corn reaches full maturity, starts going to black layer, and beans finish out their season, you're really at a tipping point here. There's a lot of irreversible damage in the corn crop. The bean crop probably could still be salvaged with some late Western Corn Belt rains, even to exceed the trend line yield of 51.5. But we're a long way from there, because the next 7 to 10 days all across the Corn Belt is supposed to be very little rain, except for potentially the far eastern Corn Belt. And this year is interesting from a weather model forecasting. There's several major ones, but the big ones that you see most mentioned are the European forecast model and the GFS, which is more North American, US, and Canadian model. And the GFS has tended to be much drier and miss the big rains like this weekend, while the EU has tended to be much wetter and meet in the middle. So nobody's track record on these weekend rains that we've gotten several points over the last 3 or 4 weeks has been very accurate. The rains have been fantastic, and for everybody listening that got them, crop makers certainly in a lot of places, and crop savers in others. But just the difficulty of the people who are supposed to be experts in predicting weather has put on another layer of volatility and just stress in these markets. Because if you go to bed, or you close markets on Friday thinking a lot of places are going to get a half inch, and then you end up, what happened, you had several places getting 3+ inches east of Des Moines, and feel terrible for all of our friends from St. Louis across in central Illinois that were just deluged a week, 10 days ago, getting 8, 12, 15 inches of rain, just nonstop pour. It's going to be very, very difficult for 177 national yield to be met when you look at these crop conditions and just the sheer inconsistency of the weather. So USDA this Friday, the 12th, is going to take farmer surveys and a few boots on the ground reports to adjust the yield for both corn and beans. The beans we don't expect to move, because they've got another major report on August 31st that you can more get a more accurate assessment of the bean crop. But on the corn yield, private yield estimates, everybody's coming in basically between 174 and 176. And you always have the outliers. You have a couple 172s and a couple 177s, or even I saw one 178.5, which I believe is way on the high end. But people like to put a number out there, and if they're right, they'll get a lot of notoriety out of it at least. So we suspect the number will come in 175, 176 on Friday, the 12th report, and that won't, from where we're sitting with December corn hovering above between 6 and 6.10 on the futures, and November beans right at $14. Those two yield numbers are fairly priced in. But if China continues to show up as a daily buyer, has happened Friday and then again today, the demand side of this equation could really start to put a fine tune or a finer pencil on where these ending stocks could be.
Well, certainly a tremendous amount of energy happening out there in the markets between some of the global challenges as well as Mother Nature challenges. Jody, I want to thank you for joining us here on FieldLink, and we look forward to catching you next round.
Okay, Bill, thank you.
Joining us now from across the nation are 4 Helena sales interns that have joined the Helena team this summer. We're excited to have Chris Longton from North Dakota State University. Chris is in the eastern half of North Dakota and South Dakota this summer. Aaron Rockwood from Washington State University. This summer, she worked in the specialty business in Phoenix, Arizona. And Greg Norris hails from Penn State University, and he is working in the Hatfield, Massachusetts location this summer for his 3rd internship with Helena. And finally, Alex Pittman from the University of Arkansas. This summer, Alex worked in the retail side of our business in the Delta of Southeast Arkansas. Okay, we're going to jump right into it. Chris, hailing from North Dakota State University, let's start with you. Where did you grow up, Chris?
So I grew up in northwest Minnesota and Plummer, Minnesota, a smaller town, around 200 people. Always grew up loving NDSU football and always interested in agronomy, so NDSU was the perfect option.
Wow, that's awesome. And what are you majoring in at North Dakota State University?
I major in crop and weed science, and I have a minor in agricultural business.
Wow. And Chris, how did you learn about the Helena internship program?
So I've always known about Helena. I grew up with some people that work with Helena, and I've had a couple internships in the past that have worked with Helena. So I was looking for an internship pretty early on, and a lot of people haven't posted their job postings yet. So I sent emails out to a few businesses, and Helena got back to me saying they were looking for an intern in our area. So I took right up on that, and it worked out.
Awesome. And also joining us is Aaron Rockwood from Washington State University. Aaron, how about you? This summer, you ventured from the great Northwest to the desert of Arizona to work in the specialty business. Aaron, what's your major at Washington State?
Hi, I major in communications with a minor in digital technology and culture and media production. So I'm doing here.
Wow, that's a excellent major that you're majoring in here. Are you from Washington then?
No, I'm from Idaho. That's how I know about the agricultural business.
Awesome. So from Idaho, kind of growing up in a rural area, did you, Aaron?
Yep, yeah. About 40 minutes outside of Boise.
Okay. So, Aaron, what's been your major focus this summer while working in the specialty industry?
Yeah, so I'm working with the sales and marketing internship. So marketing has definitely been my bigger focus this summer as I've been working with them.
Awesome. And also joining us here on the FieldLink podcast is Greg Norris from Penn State University. Greg, you're originally from Massachusetts, and now you're working in Massachusetts. This is your 3rd internship with Helena. Tell us a little bit about your major.
Yeah, so I actually majored in animal science at Penn State. I recently graduated this May, and I also had a minor in agronomy. So switching over to the crop side when I started interning with Helena is what kind of led me to switch my focus from the animal ag side over to the crop side.
Wow, and as I referenced, this is your third round, I guess, third summer with Helena. Tell us about your first 2 summers. Where did you spend those?
Yeah, so my first summer in 2020, I interned at our Genoa, New York location, which is out in the Finger Lakes in central New York. And that was a really cool opportunity for me, especially not having too much crop background. There's a lot of dairy farms in that area, which is where my background is. So I enjoyed working with a lot of the dairy and grain farms out there, and also a few vegetables mixed in. And then last summer and this summer, I have been in our Hatfield, Massachusetts location. So we cover all of New England and Eastern New York in this location. And it's a lot more specialty crop focused with a lot of apple orchards, a lot of potatoes, some tobacco mixed in. So a lot more on the fruit and vegetable side.
Wow, definitely a lot of different diversity for sure from Western New York. And also joining us here is Alex Pittman from the University of Arkansas. Alex, you have a unique story. You grew up in the Little Rock area and really didn't have a very strong agriculture background until you enrolled into the College of Agriculture at Arkansas. Tell us a little bit about how you became interested in agriculture.
Yes, so originally I am from not a big city, but a city in Arkansas. So I don't really have a big agriculture background. Being from the South, ag is everywhere, but I don't have the typical ag background that a lot of the other interns have. And so when I was going into the University of Arkansas, I had no clue what I was going to major in. And then one of my dad's best friends who actually works for Helena was like, hey, you should try ag business. And I was like, okay, I have no clue what I'm going to do. So I went into it with open mind. And now I'm in my senior year of college and loving it. And can't imagine myself doing anything else now.
Alex, how did your coursework at the University of Arkansas help better prepare you for this particular internship?
Yes, so a lot of my coursework is on the business side of agriculture. So going into the internship, I really wanted to see the other side of ag. So getting to see the crops and getting to see the production of it, while also bringing in some of my coursework with me. My final project is actually on a sales analysis for our branch. So I got to incorporate that with also the more hands-on side of everything.
Wow, that sounds like quite an experience there. One of the biggest investments that Helena makes into the internship program over the years has been this commitment towards training. Greg, can you tell us a little bit about your training experience that you gained, back 3 years ago when you first entered into the intern program?
Yeah. So each May at the beginning of the internship program in the Eastern Business Unit, we have a week-long training in Columbia, South Carolina, where our Eastern offices are. And we basically cover everything that week from our Helena products, basic agronomy, just going over the structure of the company and making sure we have a good knowledge of our agri-intelligence programs as well. So it's really a crash course in everything that you're going to experience over the summer, and it really helps you walk into your branch prepared to really hit the ground running.
Chris, tell us a little bit about the training experience that you had. I think yours was held in Des Moines, Iowa. Is that right?
Yes. So we met in Des Moines, Iowa. We had ours in a conference room at a hotel, and we talked a lot about agronomy, or HPG, and agri-intelligence. And we also got to spend quite a bit of time out in the field learning that stuff and practicing with it. Our people know a lot about our products and are great with everything, and they're great teachers. So everything was pretty great with that.
Alex, coming from your background, limited agronomy background, into this world of agronomy, how did the training program that was put on for you in the Collierville, Tennessee location help you better prepare for your internship?
Yes, so we went to Collierville for 2 days and had very extensive training on everything, which I enjoyed and really appreciated since I don't come from a typical ag background. So getting to learn all the different HPG products and what they do and how to use them, and what a lot of our farmers in the South are looking for, really helped me get a foot in the door for the internship program.
Yeah, hopefully, those training experiences allowed you to not necessarily get thrown out to the wolves, so to speak, but definitely arm you with enough knowledge to make you, comfortable to call on growers and to have quality conversations with our sales team. One of the unique things about not just the Helena internship program, but all internships is the day to day, the typical day to day. It's going to be very different and diverse, no matter where you're at or what you're necessarily doing. So, Aaron, can you tell us about your typical day to day with the specialty division in Phoenix, Arizona?
Yeah, so a big focus in the both or agricultural and specialty internships is having trials that we run and make some kind of marketing material from. So a typical day to day is waking up, going either to a golf course for specialty or some kind of nursery where a trial is being run, taking pictures, putting down data, and then going and helping out at the warehouse, whether that's I typically might go around with my boss, Paul Goolsby, and we'll drive around and I'll meet some customers. So that's a lot about what I do day to day.
So quite a lot of diversity there, from photography to running trials and of course a lot of customer interaction. Greg, how about you? How about your typical day to day in Western Mass?
It's something that has definitely kind of changed throughout all of my internships. When I started out in New York, it was a smaller territory, so working with a lot of similar customers day in and day out and visiting the same farms. Versus now in Hatfield, a lot of our locations are really spread out. And this year especially, I've been working a lot in eastern New York, in the Hudson Valley and Champlain Valley with our apple orchards. So a lot of that is the extra travel, getting there. So leaving early in the morning and then going and working, doing a lot of agri-intelligence work, whether it's soil sampling or tissue sampling in the orchard, and also just meeting with customers and doing some on the consulting side of that. But it's something that's varied every day since we have a lot of diverse customers. So one day I can be tissue sampling a potato field, and the next I'm in a huge apple orchard, and then I still get to work a little bit with corn with some dairy farms in the area too. So that's one part I really enjoy, is there's always something different that's happening.
Well, that's exciting. It's different from not just different crops, but different processes. You referenced agri-intelligence, but also touching different recommendations, maybe working with different sales reps as well as different types of growers. How about you, Chris? What's a typical day for you in the Dakotas?
So I spent a lot of time with my sales reps promoting our foliars and our tissue sampling slice program with our growers. I rode around with them for a little bit at the beginning just to see what they do. And not long did I start doing that myself. And I was asking if they needed any fields to our customers that they wanted done. And so I would do a lot of tissue sampling for our customers. And when I get those reports back, I'd bring them back to them and I'd talk to them about it, see if they have any questions. And I'd take questions about products and just help promote our Helena chemical.
Awesome. Great. And how about you, Alex? How about your typical day today?
So one thing I enjoy about this industry is how it changes every day. You never know what you're going to be doing the next day and how the day is going to go. But I went into the internship wanting to learn all of the aspects for our division. And so typical every day, I'll sweet beans for growers. And it's really cool. I got to see like week to week, like what was happening with those fields. And then really getting into agri-intelligence, pulling samples, soil samples, doing that every day and getting to work with some of our test plots we have down here. Also the fertilizer house, I got to see how that was run for us. Our fertilizer house is great. And I really enjoyed getting to view that side of things also. And then you never know what's going to happen down here. It changes day to day.
Well, and I think that's pretty typical in agriculture, and I think that's a real life experience that all of you, it sounds like you all had to experience this summer, from, dealing with Mother Nature, dealing with multiple different crops, and just, the typical day-to-day of how our industry truly does work. And I think it's probably pretty safe. You probably had a pretty good perspective on how dependent growers really are on our people as well as our services. With that, Aaron, tell us a little bit about some of the projects that you specifically got to work on this summer.
Yeah, so we mentioned trials before. Along with those trials, we have pictures of the week that we put out every week. That means going to your trial, taking some pictures, making sure that you're doing the soil sampling and tissue sampling, and then you kind of make a marketing piece off of those pictures that you took for sales reps to use in the field. So that's a project I really enjoyed this summer, especially with my marketing background.
That's great. And, I'll reference those pictures of the week are certainly circulated, across the country to different growers as well as sales reps. And even internationally, those photos that everybody takes throughout the summer and submits are circulated around the world and utilized by our customers throughout the entire globe. How about you, Greg? What was some of the projects that you got to dive into this year?
At my branch specifically, we've actually been working a lot with our extractor programs through our AI 360 platform and really been doing a lot of that in our apple orchards. So at key growth stages throughout the season, we'll go and take both a tissue sample and an apple fruitlet sample as well and send those into the lab for analysis. So I've been doing a lot with that and also working on the recommendation side of that too. Once we get the results back and sitting down and meeting with the growers and going over how they can get their nutrition in line so we can find a way to really ensure that our fruit quality is the best that it can be.
Awesome. And how about you, Alex? How about some of your projects that you get to dive into?
Yes. So one of my favorite projects that we've been working on this summer is we have a few cotton test plots where we're using Zypro and research and getting to see side by side how those products affect the cotton and how much better the cotton is doing with our HPG products. And just getting to see that week to week and getting to pull those samples week to week has been really great to see.
So that's really hands-on stuff when you can start to compare some of those products and, how they make a crop like cotton perform. What were some of the findings that you found from that experience, Aaron?
So definitely the canopy of the cotton was greater, and just the fullness of the cotton with those products was so much better. And getting to see that, and I actually used those test plots for a few of my pictures of the week. So getting to see those side-by-side pictures and getting to send it out, those to be used for growers and for the salesmen to use in the future was really cool to see.
And Chris, what kind of projects did you get to deep dive into this year?
Yeah, so it's been a very wet year for us up north. There's been a lot of nutrients lost through leaching, a lot of lost fertilizer. So I've been doing a lot of my project on just promoting our foliars and our tissue sampling program. So I've been collecting a lot of data from our tissue sampling on the AI 360 app. And I've also been working a lot with our info additives, Zypro and Receptor, collecting a lot of data on that. So that's been a good time. I've learned a lot from just doing all that.
What kind of visuals have you picked up, Chris? I know it's early in the season, but are you seeing some differences with some of those products in that market?
Oh, yes. For our info additives, like Zypro and Receptor, root size and root hair density has increased dramatically. We had our plot, we had Zypro and Receptor put together, and the night before our plot tour day, I went out there and dug those, and it was a pretty drastic change, and stock diameters changed a lot too, and also we got our tissue sample reports back, and that product had an increase in every nutrient across the board. It was pretty cool to look at.
Wow. And I think that brings reality when you're out there touching it. You can always read a report, but when you're actually actively a part of, some of those on-farm trials, you become kind of the expert there and certainly become a part of the resource. Aaron, can you share some of your experiences there and what kind of contributions that you brought to the branch, as well as the customers that you may have worked on throughout the summer?
Yeah, so my trial was at a golf course with Coron 25 Metra and Coron 28 Metra versus granular urea, so running a foliar trial there. And I think that being able to talk to those customers, have a trial ran there is really beneficial to the relationship with the customer. I talk to him every week, and I'm running and giving him his, the information back to him, as well as for Paul and the people at my branch, using that for future reference.
Well, that's awesome, Aaron, and it's excellent to see that, especially in the specialty business on golf courses, where it's sometimes a little more challenging to get those kind of trials out there. And that sounds like you had a great experience there. Greg, how about let's jump back up to New England. Tell us a little bit about how you're delivering some value to your location as well as to the customers this past summer.
Yeah, obviously we cover a pretty big territory where we have a lot of big customers that can be 2 to 3 hours away from our location. So getting to see them on a regular basis is definitely a challenge. And that's where I try to really help out and be a presence for our branch and an extension of our salesmen at a lot of these customers where they might not be able to get around to them every single week, but having another person to be boots on the ground and have an opportunity to grab tissue samples when they're needed easily, and just be able to be an extension of the salesman on really focusing on developing that relationship with customers more and really ensure that we're really in tune with everything that's happening on their farms at all times.
That's excellent, Greg. And Alex, in Arkansas, tell us about some of the contributions that you feel you delivered and brought to the branch, as well as some of the growers in that area.
Yes. So one thing I definitely think was I was just a present for our AI guys down here, that we pulled lots of samples that, and me being that extra hand gave them the opportunity to focus more on growing that relationship with the growers. And so I can go out and do the tissue samples so they have more time and more opportunity to talk to the growers, and just being an extension of them for that.
Yeah, I think you both, several of you referenced an extension, and I think that's very valuable. That can't be, overlooked. Having that extra extension, that extra, I guess, brand of Helena on the boots on the ground in front of that customer is really critical. And I know we certainly appreciate your professionalism as you bring that to our growers and customers throughout the U.S. Chris, can you help us better understand, this summer, how did this experience prepare you and help maybe, shape your future and for where you want to go from a career perspective?
Yes, so this internship has been great with customer relations. It has helped me learn a lot about myself. I've learned just a lot more about agronomy as a whole, and it's something I'll be able to take with me the rest of my life. Especially the customer relations. It's been awesome going around, being able to talk and promote and just be there to help and ask our customers what they need, whether it's tissue sampling, scouting fields, answering questions about product. It's been very important, and it has really helped me be more confident and for my future.
Awesome. And how about you, Aaron? How has this summer experience, kind of shape your future?
Yeah, like you said, a huge component of it is customer relations and being able to talk to people. So, just for our communication standpoint, you grow so much over the summer with being more and more comfortable, especially learning about our products and agronomy. You become more confident in your knowledge, and then you can better talk to people and reflect how your products or your company will help them. So I think that's huge for me, especially not ever being in sales before.
Awesome. And Greg, round 3 for you, bud. How has this third year, I assume year 1, year 2, and year 3, they continue to build upon each other. How has these 3 years helped, shape your future, in your opinion?
I think this year I've really been able to focus on tying everything together from my past 2 internships, and really with Helena, we really focus a lot on kind of the full service. So we have the sales side, but we also have the agri-intelligence side where we're really working on the precision ag. So I've been lucky to be able to focus on that in a lot of apple orchards this year, going both kind of on the chemistry side with their insecticide and fungicide programs, and then tying that back into fruit quality and the nutrition of the trees. And really being able to bring all of those services I've had experience with my past years all in one, and really focusing on the consulting side of that as well. So it's definitely helped me this year to be able to focus on a few customers and tie everything from my past 2 internships back all together to really feel comfortable talking and consulting with customers.
Great. And that's what a great experience there. And Alex, your first journey out here in agriculture on the professional side, how has this summer experience, I guess, really helped you shape where you may want to go in the future?
Yes. So again, coming in with no ag background, this experience really gave me the confidence to be able to see myself doing this in the future, and definitely wanting to be more on the agriculture side of ag business. But definitely just having the confidence and being able to understand, even though I have a lot more learning to do, I can definitely see myself doing this in the future.
No, that's awesome. And I'm sure the folks at the location really appreciate all your efforts there, Alex, as well. And Chris, as we kind of wrap up here, what kind of advice would you give, fellow students back at North Dakota State University or any other university for that matter, about pursuing an internship like the Helena internship program?
See, I would take the opportunity to take this internship with Helena or any internship like it. Everyone that you work with on a daily basis is there to help you, and they will teach you everything. They're not going to get annoyed of your questions or anything. They understand. They've been in your shoes at some point. They're there to answer every question. They know you want to learn. So everyone's there to help, and it's great. I have learned a lot this internship, and I think anyone could.
And how about you, Aaron? How's your experience been? And how would you, what are you going to tell your fellow colleagues back at Washington State University?
Yeah, I would just give advice to open your horizons and so you can get different experiences. Like me coming from a marketing background and coming into this internship, I learned so much with all the different aspects of agronomy and sales and that kind of stuff. So this internship is so good with allowing you to make what you want of it. So if I wanted to make it more marketing focused, I was allowed to do that, and helping out and just learning so much. So
awesome. And how about you, Greg?
Yeah, I would say from the start, my favorite part of the internship with Helena has been that it's not simply just they're hiring you to work for the summer. There's really a training focus behind the internship and really wanting to develop that relationship with you and have you stay on and work full time for the company after you graduate as well. So that's something I've really loved. It's just the investment that Helena puts into the training aspect of the internship program. It's really the people that I've encountered throughout the internship at different branches and on the corporate side that have kept me wanting to stay with the company for the past 3 years. So that's my favorite part. I know a lot of people that have had internships that they don't really get that much out of it besides just a job for the summer, but that's extremely different from what I've experienced with Helena, and that's been my favorite part of it.
Well, I appreciate that, Greg. And I think there's a lot of truth. You and Aaron both touched on it. This internship program, along with really a lot of internships programs, it's you get out of it what you put into it, and hopefully we've provided a platform for you to excel. Kind of like Aaron mentioned, she has a passion in marketing, and Chris has a passion in agronomy. You can certainly tap into those areas of our industry and highlight, I guess, your experience a little bit. Alex, how about yourself? What kind of advice would you give fellow students back at the University of Arkansas or in the South?
I mean, I just could not recommend this internship more. I definitely think the people at Helena is really what makes it. Their willingness to teach you and their willingness to help. And just, they really this summer have made Lake Village feel like my home away from home, and have really been my backbone of this summer. And I think the people is what makes me want to work for Helena in the future. Is the community here that I couldn't recommend more to anyone that is looking into it.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate all of you today here. I know a lot of you, you all have amazing futures ahead of you. Hopefully you'll come join us here on the Helena team, but we want to thank you all for joining us and sharing your story here on FieldLink and with our audience about the Helena internship program here at Helena. And we want to thank all of you, Alex at the University of Arkansas, Greg at Penn State University, Aaron at Washington State University, and Chris up north at North Dakota State University. Thank you all for contributing to our business and our industry this summer. In addition to field sales interns, Helena has several other interns this summer that assist other support departments. Summer interns can also be found in accounting, strategic planning, HPG development, laboratories, research and development, as well as marketing services. Joining us today is Chandra Spangler from the University of Nebraska. This summer, Chandra is serving as a marketing services intern for the Helena Products Group in Memphis, Tennessee. Chandra, welcome to FieldLink.
Thank you, Bill.
Awesome. So Chandra, tell us a little bit about home. Tell us how you got involved in agriculture.
Yeah, so home is in O'Neill, Nebraska, which is up in the northeastern part of the state. And I grew up in the country about 10 miles outside of O'Neill, actually, kind of on a small hobby farm. Over the years, we've had different animals on the farm, but there's a feedlot right down the road, which has been there my whole life.
Yep.
And then as people have kind of found out that we have amazing soil for row crop, they have definitely started farming around me.
Okay.
So having ag in the backyard really helped me to learn more about agriculture itself, but I didn't really get super immersed into it until high school. I was a big part of the local FFA chapter, and it was there that I kind of realized that ag literacy kind of as a whole is low, and there's a lot of misunderstanding around agriculture, and I wanted to play a part and help in helping people to understand more about it. So that's why I chose a major in agricultural and environmental sciences communication, with an option in strategic communication, kind of beyond more the marketing side.
All at UNL in Lincoln.
Correct,
awesome.
yeah.
And tell us about some of the courses that you've taken, to, I guess, enhance, your better understanding and communications of agriculture.
Oh, gosh, yeah. I've taken a lot of design courses to really understand how to do magazine layouts or flyer layouts. Photography and videography courses were huge for me, just to learn the components of the camera, microphone systems, how to connect those, and really get a quality, both visual and sound.
A little bit of social
writing,
media too.
Well, writing, we did a lot of writing.
Yeah.
To learn how to take really complicated scientific topics and break them down for kind of more general audiences to increase ag literacy.
Yeah, back at school, your part-time job is working at Extension, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I work with the Institute of Ag and Natural Resources. So we do a lot of work with Nebraska Extension and then the research and teaching part of the university.
Okay.
So yeah, there I take a lot of complicated topics. I hear a lot about agricultural topics, not only, in the typical farming space, but that might also be how that's impacting, how dairy is impacting a cure for medical diseases or something like that. So it's very diverse.
Very diverse, especially on that extension side. So let's transfer a little bit here to your Helena internship, working for the Helena Products Group and marketing services this summer. Tell us about some of the projects and I guess that you've been working on with the marketing services team.
Yeah, so I've had a wide variety of projects here over the last 2-3 months.
Yeah.
I was involved with the coordination of our field day, which was a huge success. I created a farm safety social media content calendar. I wrote some FieldLink articles on some of our products. I took photos and videos, and then I dabbled a little bit into the brand launches that we have coming up here this fall, just ideating taglines and PowerPoints for those. And then we had our weekly learning sessions where I got to learn more about Helena as a whole.
Wow, awesome. Well, let's step back a little bit, talk about a little bit more about that field day. Tell us about your specific role and that's that field day, which had close to 250, 300 different folks come through our field day. Tell us about what you did.
Yeah, so a big part of the field day for me was taking weekly progress pictures of Helena product groups, corn trials that they were performing out there in the field. So I'd go out every Friday, starting at, I think it was 7 days after treatment, and just kind of gauging how that treatment was working on those trials as time went on. I created some e-blasts to remind people to, first of all, register for our field day.
Sure.
And then after they registered, to make sure to come out and kind of give them a preview of what they were going to find there. And then I got to go around multiple times to each session of the field day as a group leader, kind of lead groups through and help facilitate their experience at the field day. And then I had a hand in just setting up and taking down all of the things that we put up, field side.
It's not all office work and creative.
No.
You're out there sweating it up a little bit, putting posts in, and all the things that are required for a field day.
Oh yeah, definitely got sweaty. Definitely got my hands dirty.
That's great. That's awesome. One of your projects you referenced was creating some social media calendars. I know that's an area that you're excited about. Tell us a little bit about some of the specifics there and who you connected with to help develop some of that content.
Yeah, so for this farm safety social media calendar, when I first got assigned it, I thought of common things that I would think of in Nebraska that might be issues like grain bin safety, just being aware of your surroundings, not run over a person or an animal, just stopping at stop signs, all the general stuff. But obviously, as I thought more about it, I realized it's going to be a lot different based on what they're doing, on the East Coast and the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
So to kind of figure out, what those differences would be, I called product managers from all over the United States to just kind of hear their top 5 or so safety concerns that might be issues in their area, which was actually super eye-opening. I heard a lot of things that I never would have thought of myself.
Well, I think that just illustrates, too, how different agriculture is across the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
So, it could be, blueberry farms in the Carolinas to, grape farms in California and big wheat fields and potato fields up in Idaho.
Right. It's so diverse. We really do it all here in the United States. So, diversity is very huge.
Tell us a little bit about, your major. Writing is very important to you, and, you certainly worked on that skill this summer. Tell us about some of the projects that you worked on in that area.
Yeah, so for Helena specifically, I did some writing on E&C formulation technology, Orbix and Utilize, which are for our specialty markets. And then actually, I got to kind of go back to my home roots.
Yeah.
I did a location feature on the North Fork, Nebraska location.
Oh, right.
They do a lot of logistics and corn production. So that was really interesting. But I guess as I was writing kind of to expand my skills, I really made an effort to absorb as much as I could from the Helena experts that I talked to have them both explain it to me in the very technical terms, but also the more general terms for me to be able to interpret that information and write for more general audiences. So that way, no matter if you're a grower or you're someone just checking out Helena, you can really understand what we're doing here.
I think that's a really unique point you bring up, working with those Helena experts, because we kind of have a luxury here at the Helena Products Group. Walk down the hall and you can talk to a chemist who's developing the products, or the other end of the hall, somebody that's researching an R&D, a PhD who's touching these in multiple trials throughout the U.S. So definitely a lot of different resources here.
Oh, for sure. And it was great to be able to, go down to the lab and see them if I couldn't figure it out, for them to formulate it in front of my eyes to be able to kind of see. Yeah.
Great visualization there. You also had an opportunity to, focus on your video skills, an area that I know you were excited at trying to expand. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I was pretty nervous. I actually hadn't picked up a camera in probably over 6 months before I got here. So I kind of knew the basics, but it had been a long time since I'd really played around with it. But I found if I just kept volunteering myself for things, I could really grow my skills. I played a big part in the field day teasers. We did teaser videos to kind of get people excited to come to the field day. We also did informational videos of Helena experts walking along the rows, kind of explaining what's happening, how these chemicals are working on these various plots. And then we also had some new product launches that we wanted to really get some demonstration videos for, just looking at the viscosity and the emulsions of those. And then just some more aesthetic shots of them looking pretty and different environments.
No, that's awesome. That's really great. Tell us a little bit about the weekly learning sessions that you participated in. Kind of frame that up for our audience of really what they're all about.
Yeah, those are great to get a full circle idea of what Helena really does. I think if you just read about it, you could know what they do, but you don't truly understand what they do until you talk to someone that does that day to day. But yeah, I was really exposed to every part of the business. We had sales and branding, strategic planning, international business, finances. We had registration, everything. And it was just really great to see how the stuff that I do as an intern in the marketing department really has an impact on the rest of the business.
Okay.
Whether that might be marketing our adjuvant line that the lab talked about in our lab discussion, or creating our consistent branding on our packages, and how we can continue to do that as I saw the impact that had in the warehouse.
Yeah, because you actually got to go out not just to the warehouse at, I think, Wynne, Arkansas.
Correct, yeah.
To see one of our facilities there. But you also spent some time with the rest of your interns this summer at the Helena Industries facility in West Helena, Arkansas.
Yes, and that was awesome to really just see they really had all kind of sides of production there. To see the production lines running, the packaging, storage. We saw full circle products being made, being poured right before our eyes. So that was really awesome.
That's awesome. Well, Chandra, as you're kind of wrapping up your summer, what advice would you give to other students out there that might be looking for this type of internship?
Yeah, first of all, I'd say definitely be confident and don't hesitate to apply. I spent a lot of time thinking about if this is going to be right for me, but I just chose to apply and see where it went. And not everyone's going to know what their passions are going into an internship. That's obviously why you're going to go into these, to figure out who you are,
right,
what you want in your career. But I think finding one thing that really interests you in your area of expertise and voicing that to them will get you really far in your internship. I came in knowing that I liked writing, and I really, really like to be creative.
Sure.
And put those creative juices into video and photos. And so I communicated that with them, and that really helped do what I wanted, expand on those skills. And I think mostly just, especially here at Helena, to just understand that the people here will treat you a lot more like family, and generally care about yourself, your personal and your professional life. So
that's awesome. Well, beyond the technical skills, how do you feel you grew this summer professionally?
I'd say time management was a big thing. Yeah. I've had various jobs, but I've never worked an actual 8 to 5 before.
Yeah.
So that was a big shift, just finding when I'm most productive and planning projects for those times. And definitely the independency and confidence in my work. I realized I have to trust my work is good and to be able to convince others of that. And then just being adaptable. Agriculture is always changing. And so just kind of rolling with the punches and finding out the best solutions in those situations of how we can, especially from a marketing side, be able to adapt to those changes.
Yeah, I think, another area that those are all excellent areas that you certainly grew in this summer. But I think, one of the big ones is picking up from O'Neill, Nebraska and traveling to Memphis, Tennessee, moving, 11, 12, 13 hours, 14 hours from home to a whole new area and embracing that. How was that transition for you?
It was a little tough at first,
Sure.
Being 11 hours, 13 hours away from home.
Yeah.
All your family is super hard when they're kind of the ones you lean on. But I think really just coming here with the mindset of just really embracing the culture here, the people here, what you'll be doing here, really got me far to be able to immerse myself into not only Memphis, but just the state of Tennessee in general.
Oh, that's great. And I think that's a huge growth learning experience for any student that moves away from a few hours from home and gets kind of out of their comfort zone for a period of time. Excellent. Well, Chandra, it's been awesome having you join us here today on FieldLink. Been great having you a part of our team this summer. We want to thank you for joining us here on FieldLink and look forward to seeing you in the future, and best wishes as you head back to the University of Nebraska this fall.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks for joining us here on this special edition of FieldLink as we focused on our internship program. To learn more about Helena's internship program, check out our website at helenaagra.com and check out our career section to learn more about internships as well as full-time opportunities.